Financial aid. 4 forms of financial aid will be grants, scholarships, work study, and student loans. Hey Tom, is there any way that you might be able to help me change in slides? Okay, thank you. Now I'm ready for the next one, please. Okay, the next screenshot here gives you a website that you can go to. This is a website that you can go to for what's called Funding Your Education. This is an excellent resource that's going to enhance your knowledge on the information that I covered tonight. So I got that website up there for you to go to. It's already updated for the 12-13 school year. Okay, first we're going to talk about grants. Next slide, please. Grants will be free money from either the federal or the state government. Next. The FAFSA is required for all federal grants. One type of grant that your student can receive is called the Pell Grant. This is for undergraduate students pursuing a first baccalaureate degree. The Pell Grant is a federal grant awarded based on need. The award amount for the current school year that we're in right now is between $555 and $5,550 for a full-time student. The EFC range should be between 0 and about $5,273 for a full-time student. Effective with the 08-09 academic year, there's a cap on the number of semesters that your student can receive the Pell Grant. So there's an 18-semester cap on that as well. Can anybody tell me what portable means when it comes to the Pell Grant? Correct. Let's say that your student starts out at school A for fall, they're receiving the Pell Grant, they decide to transfer for whatever reason, they can use the rest of their Pell Grant at school B, okay, for the rest of the year, okay? Next we're going to talk about Supplemental Educational Opportunity Grant, okay? This is one of those funds that I talked about earlier where schools in the nation get a certain amount of money that they can award for the school year. When that's gone, then it's gone. I think, did you have a question? Good question. The question is, okay, the question is if they receive the International Baccalaureate in high school, are they not eligible for the Pell Grant? That's a great question. They could still receive the Pell Grant. Once you have attended college and you receive your first bachelor's degree, no matter what your income is, you're no longer eligible for the Pell Grant again, okay? Good question. So with the SEOG grant, this is how it works. Let's say that school A is packaging aid for students. They have $100,000 in SEOG that they can award, okay? What they're going to do is they're going to start awarding it to students that have the lowest of EFCs for that given year. So for 12-13, they're going to start packaging students that have the 0 EFC. Then what they're going to do is they're going to start looking at the application receipt date that we talked about, okay? So they're going to start awarding all those students. Once they're done with those students, if there's any money left, then they go to the next EFC index, which is between 1 and 100, and they start awarding those students. If there's any money left when they're done with them, then they go to the next index, which is 101 to 200, and they keep awarding until these funds are spent. The only way that they can recover these funds is through students failing out of college or choosing not to come back, okay? So that's another reason why it's important to get the application in early. This is awarded for undergraduate students pursuing their first baccalaureate degree, and the award range is between $100,000 and $4,000 for the academic year. So it's a significant amount of money. Question?
Going back to the 18-semester limit, does it have to be 18 semesters without breaking, or can they, like if they choose to go, take summer off and then go back in the fall?
Oh, good question. The question was in regards to the 18-semester cap on the Pell Grant. That's 18 paid semesters. Okay, so you don't have to attend like 18 consecutive semesters. They usually assume the students will take the summer semester off. So, good question. Yes?
Once you fill a form out and get approved on what your need is, if your financial situation changes, let's say it's for the better, let's say you receive more income that year, that's locked in though at that point. You don't have to rechange it for...
Oh, good question. We talked about special circumstances. So let's say that the family's adjusted gross income in 2011 was $100,000 and there was a job loss. So the family's income is going from $100,000 down to 15 or 20 in unemployment, obviously you want to contact the school to let them know to see what they can do to help you out. But if the income is going up from 2011 to 12, there's no need to let the school know. And that's fantastic if that occurs. What? Yeah. What'll happen is when you complete the application for the 13-14 school year, then that increase in income is going to be, it's going to affect the EFC. That's correct. Yeah, you don't have, once you're locked in, unless you have like a job loss or something, you don't want to contact the school about any increase in income. And the special circumstances, you can request that from one year to the next too. It's just not for the freshman year. Okay? Good questions.
Question. If back to when you were talking about errors on the FAFSA, if we miss a certain section while we're filling it out and we intend to go back to it, will it tell us that we missed that so that we know to go back?
Good question. The question in regards to if you start the application and you saved it, or if you skipped a section, will it remind you to go back? The answer would be yes. When I was preparing my presentation over the Christmas break, I started my own personal FAFSA application and I never finished it. I only started it just to get some screenshots, and like every 2 days I get a reminder, just let you know your FAFSA's not done yet. I know, delete. So, but the FAFSA application nowadays is very streamlined. It has skip logic, so you won't even have to answer certain questions if based on the logic that's programmed into the EFC formula. If they don't need you to answer it, they skip right over it. Okay? Good question. Yes?
SEOG along with the Pell Grant, I already filled it out January 1st based on my 2010. Obviously, I'm waiting for my tax returns for 2011, but do they wait until I updated it to start allocating this SEOG?
Good question. The question is, what if I submitted my application on January 1st and I used 2010's information? When they start packaging, are they waiting for me to do a correction? You're kind of on Scout's honor when you submit it, the application, to go back in and make corrections once your taxes are done. Okay. All right, next slide, please. Next, we're going to talk about the TEACH grant. The TEACH grant is the Teacher Education Assistance for College and Higher Education grant. This is for Pell-eligible students who major in math, science, foreign bilingual education, special education, reading, and other. This requires the student to teach in an underserved school district for a certain amount of time. So, what the student would have to do is teach in an underserved school district for at least 4 years within 8 years of graduating from college. Okay? If they meet that requirement, they can receive up to $4,000 for the year, or $16,000 max for their undergrad studies. If they fail to meet that obligation, then that money turns into an unsubsidized student loan. Okay? Next slide, please. Next, we're going to talk about some state aid. One type of grant that's out there from the state of Michigan is called the Michigan Tuition Grant. This is to be used at private independent colleges in Michigan, like Baker College. The student must answer all state qualifying questions on the FAFSA. For the current school year that we're in right now, the award is up to $1,512. The student and the parents have to be a Michigan resident before July 1st of the previous calendar year. They have to be a U.S. citizen or permanent resident. They have to attend at least half-time. I'm not going to read all of this slide to you, but the EFC range should be between 0 and about 11,000 to qualify for the Michigan Tuition Grant. Also, if you ever have any state of Michigan questions about aid and things of that nature, it looks like some of the slide is cut off, but there's an 800 number up there for you to call, 888-4-GRANTS. If you have any questions, you can call the Office of Scholarships and Grants at the state of Michigan, and on your handout too will be the email address for them as well. Another type of state aid that's out there is called the Tuition Incentive Program. I'm not going to read all this to you, but to qualify to meet the financial eligibility requirement, a student must have or have had Medicaid coverage for 24 months within a 36 consecutive month period as identified by the Michigan Department of Human Services. TIP is paid in 2 phases. Phase 1 pays $84 a credit hour up to a certain limit. Once the student has completed their associate's degree, then they can receive what's called Phase 2 TIP. And in phase 2 tip, they receive 5 $400 checks. Now, in order for the college's financial aid office to award tip to your students, they have to have what's called a tip letter. That's something that you get from the state of Michigan. Okay, some of you, if you meet that criteria, you may already have it. If you don't have it and you think you qualify, you'd want to contact the state of Michigan. A lot of times they can fax it to the school on your behalf as well if you tell them what school it is. Okay? Any questions on grants? All right, next we're going to go into scholarships. I'm going to ask you to refer to your pink handout that you got at the table. Scholarships are usually awarded based on academic excellence and not necessarily on financial need. Sources of information about scholarships are the library, internet search engines, high school counselor's office, church, and any organizations that the student may belong to. Your handout that you have there are all free, non-fee based websites. What they're going to do is they're going to ask questions about your student, their high school grade point average, what they're going to be majoring in college, any volunteer organizations they belong to, things of that nature. They'll narrow it down to certain scholarships that they may qualify for, and then the ball is in your student's court to follow through with the application process. I'm going to be honest with you, searching for scholarships is not easy work. A lot of students submit half a dozen applications, they don't get anything, they give up. I know somebody that submitted 50 applications before he finally got $2,000. Okay? That's a lot of work, but he got $2,000. That's $2,000 that he doesn't have to pay back in a Stafford loan when he's done with college. Okay? Take advantage of, Bev mentioned some of the scholarships that the school has. Talk to the counselor's office. When you're out in the stores, a lot of different companies have scholarships. Coca-Cola, Pepsi, Walmart has scholarships. Kentucky Fried Chicken has scholarships, okay? The KFC scholarship, $20,000. When you're out in the stores and you're looking at products, look at the back. See if they have any scholarships. Look at your library. The thing you want to do is avoid people charging a fee to search for these scholarships, okay? Continuing to avoid being scammed, to check the legitimacy of scholarship search organizations. They have a few different organizations you can contact: the Better Business Bureau, the Department of Education, Federal Trade Commission, and the Office of Inspector General. Next slide, please. Next, we're going to talk about the Michigan Competitive Scholarship. I'm not going to read all that to you, but to qualify for it, the student must demonstrate financial need and meet all other eligibility requirements. The EFC should be between 0 and about 11,000 to qualify for this. Student has to have a qualifying score on the ACT to qualify before entering college. The award for the current year is up to $1,512. Have to be a Michigan resident, U.S. citizen, or permanent resident, and have to attend at least half-time. And I believe I was at Brighton High School 2 nights ago, and I think the state will send out a letter to possible Michigan competitive scholarship recipients. I think they're asking for like the Social Security number. If you get that letter, you want to make sure you get that back to the state of Michigan as soon as possible. Or if you have any questions on the competitive scholarship, you want to make sure you get that in right away. Another thing with the competitive scholarship, it has a deadline. The deadline to submit the FAFSA for the Michigan Competitive Scholarship is March 1st. So you want to have it in before March 1st. Okay, the next few slides I'm not going to talk about. I'm going to ask Tom just to go through those slowly. These are just more options for you to explore when searching for funds for higher education. Anyone have any questions on grants or scholarships that we've talked about so far? Okay. All right, the next slide that we're going to talk about will be work study. Work study is usually funded from the federal or the state government. Students are employed on or off campus. Most programs, they work between 12 and 20 hours per week. Most positions pay minimum wage, with some higher skilled positions paying a little more per hour. To be eligible, the student must have unmet need. Remember, unmet need is the difference between the cost of attendance at the school that they're attending and in their EFC and any aid that they're receiving. They also have to have a 2.0 cumulative grade point average, and they have to remain in good academic standing, meaning that they have to be meeting those rules that we talked about when we first started to keep their financial aid eligibility. Now, on the FAFSA question, it asks, are you interested in working work study, yes or no? You can answer yes to that, but don't depend on that getting you on the work study program. You want to be proactive again. Talk to the schools. Find out what the process is to get put on the work-study program. Okay? And work-study funds go fast. Work-study is like SEOG that we talked about a little while ago. Schools get X amount of dollars that they can award to students to work on the work-study program. Once those funds are awarded, they're gone. The only way that those funds are recovered is if students quit working the work-study program and the workers need to be replaced. We have a question. Good question. The question is, what's the advantage of work and work-study? I indicated that most positions pay minimum wage when the student could possibly go across the street and earn more money. If they can earn more money across the street, then that might be more advantageous for them. However, I'll use Baker College as an example. We have what's called the Baker College System Office, and we also have campuses. We have a lot of people that work at the system office and the campuses that started working for Baker when they were students and they were on the work-study program. It's a good opportunity for the supervisors in those different departments, the academic office. These are offices that get work-study allocations that hire students. Academics, financial aid, business office, facilities. They get an opportunity to look at the students to find out what type of worker they are. We have a lot of people that are working for Baker College as full-time employees now because they were on the work-study program. And it's a good thing that they can put on their resume as well. Okay? And not all the work-study positions are, taking out the trash, things of that nature. Some of them are clerical. They're going to be able to start working with databases and looking up student information and things of that nature. Okay, so it's a good experience. Okay, any questions on work-study? Yes? Okay, good. Yeah, it's also a little bit easier to get a job on the work-study program as well. All right, next we're going to talk about loans. That's the last form of financial aid. The types of the loan programs that are available are the federal Stafford loans, which are funded through the direct lending program through the Department of Education. There are also federal Perkins loans out there and institutional and private loans as well. The amount of money that your son or daughter can borrow for the academic year is going to be based on their dependency status and their grade level. Okay? Next slide, please. Okay, so your students are going to be a freshman this fall. They can borrow what's called base eligibility. Okay? They can borrow $3,500 in base. The EFC that they have is going to determine if that base eligibility is subsidized or unsubsidized, or a portion of both. Okay? And because the student is dependent and a freshman, they can borrow an additional $2,000 in unsub funds. So for the year, they'll have $5,500 in Stafford loan eligibility. That's guaranteed, no cosigners needed. The loan's guaranteed to go through. Once they move up to be a sophomore, they can get $4,500 in base eligibility, plus an additional $2,000 for a total of $6,500. Once they're a junior or senior, they can get $5,500 of base eligibility, plus an additional $2,000 on sub for a total of $7,500. Okay? So they get those amounts automatically on their own by filling out the FAFSA. When you receive your award notification, that's going to tell you what that base is, if it's sub or unsub or a portion of both. The amount that your student can borrow in the Stafford loan program is based on their dependency status, and there's also a cap. For dependent students, the loan aggregate is $31,000 in their undergrad studies. No more than $23,000 of that can be subsidized. If your student is an independent student, they can borrow up to $57,500. No more than $23,000 of that can be subsidized. Next, please.
Could you take a moment to explain the difference between subsidized and unsubsidized?
Yes, the question is, can I explain subsidized and unsubsidized? I'll do that right now. On the subsidized and unsubsidized loan, there's no principal payments on the loan until 6 months after the student graduates or drops below part-time status. On the subsidized loan, the government's going to pay the interest on the loan while the student's in school. On the unsubsidized loan, the student's responsible for the interest while they're in school. It's recommended that they pay it. They'll get a quarterly bill. Every 3 months, they'll get an interest statement. Okay? If they can pay it, that would be great. If they can't pay it, then that interest is going to be added onto the principal, and then for the next 3 month period, the interest is going to be calculated on the principal and that new interest. Okay? Good question. All right, next slide. There are costs associated with borrowing on the Stafford Loan Program. The interest rate for the upcoming school year is 6.8% fixed for subsidized and 6.8% fixed for unsubsidized. There's an origination fee that the government charges on the loan. For this upcoming year, it would be 1%. Next. The student starts making payments 6 months after they drop below part-time status or after they graduate. Here's another thing I don't have in your handouts, but I wanted to mention. When you get your award notification, it's going to tell you what your student qualifies for the Stafford loans. Most likely, you'll be able to request that loan online. Some people think, well, I submitted my FAFSA, my loan's done, my grants are done, everything's good. You actually have to request the loan, okay? So you can do that online, or you can complete a paper Stafford loan application. But just because you did that, that doesn't mean the loan's going to pay to the student's account. They also have to complete what's called a promissory note. A promissory note is the student's promise to repay the loan when it goes into repayment, okay? It's going to be a master promissory note. It's going to be good for 10 years. To complete a promissory note, your student would go to this website, and I'm sure the school will notify you of this as well, but the website would be www.studentloans.gov. www.studentloans.gov. In addition, and I don't have a website for this because the school will provide this to you, the student is going to be required to complete what's called loan counseling. This is where the school educates the student about the rights and responsibilities for taking out this loan. They're reminding them, this is a loan. You're going to have to repay this. If you take out this loan, this is how you're going to pay it back. If you take out this loan and you're in repayment, this is what you do if you can't make payments. This is what you do if you go back to school to do a deferment, things of that nature. So that's something that you want to be aware of. Next slide, please. Stafford loans also have different repayment options. I'm not going to go through all these with you, but there are right now about 6 different repayment options. One is the standard, which is 10 years. You also have the extended, you have the graduated, income-based, income contingent, and income sensitive. I gave you a website that you can go to educate yourself about the different repayment options that are out there. We're just about done with the PowerPoint presentation, and we're going to go into the FAFSA slides, by the way. Also, there's public service loan forgiveness. Once your student graduates, and if they agree to work in the public sector in certain areas, after paying on their loans for 10 years, it's possible to get the rest of their loans forgiven. Okay? So I gave you a website that you can go to educate yourself and your student about that process as well. Next. Last, we're going to talk about Federal Plus loans. Borrowers or parents of dependent undergraduate students. The annual loan limit is the cost of attendance minus any aid the student's receiving for the year. The interest rate for the upcoming year is 7.9% fixed. The origination fee that the government charges is 4%. The parent has the option of postponing repayments for 6 months after the dependent student ceases to be enrolled half-time. The parent loan is based on credit. So when you get your award notification, it's going to tell you what your student's going to receive in grants, scholarships, work study, Stafford loans, and Parent Plus loans. Okay? The process to request the loan is going to be in there. If you request the parent loan and it's accepted because it's based on credit, then you're fine. And by the way, you as the parent, you also have to complete a promissory note if you take out the Plus loan as well. Okay? If you request the parent loan and it's denied, that gives your student another $4,000 in unsubsidized loan eligibility in their name. Okay? So the freshman student's going to get $5,500 in their name automatically. If you request the parent loan and it's denied, your student will get another $4,000. Okay? I'm not trying to encourage students to borrow. I just feel it's important that you know what all your options are in case you have to take out the loan if you have no other choice. Okay? All right, can we advance 2 more slides, please? 1 more? There we go. Okay, College Goal Sunday is coming up. It's going to be Sunday, February the 12th. College Goal Sunday is where financial aid administrators in different communities across the nation volunteer their time to be available to help you. We're at your beck and call. From 2 o'clock until 4 o'clock on that day, we'll be available. Next slide, please. For the first time, Baker College of Auburn Hills is going to be a host site for College Goal Sunday. I have our website up there, not website, I'm sorry, our address and our phone number. If you have any questions, and feel free to stop by. We'll be more than happy to assist you. Okay? All right, does anyone have any questions on anything that we've covered so far? Yes? Good question. The question is what if we have a family situation where the student lives with biological mom is remarried, she was confirming, are they going to look at biological mom and step-parents information? That answer would be yes. If there's an additional question, do they look at the biological father's lack of support, for instance, or no support, for instance, in consideration of the aid eligibility? The answer, unfortunately, would be no. Okay? All right, good questions. Yes?
Maybe if you on the Stafford loan, you said you have to apply for that separately from just filling out the FAFSA?
Okay, the question is about the Stafford loan. You complete the FAFSA. Some people think, well, I did my FAFSA, everything's good. I'm good for 4 years. No, that's not it. You complete the FAFSA, that's going to generate the award notification. When you get the award notification, that'll tell you what you receive in the 4 forms of financial aid, and it'll tell you what the loan eligibility is for the Stafford loan, and it'll tell you what instructions are. All the schools are different, okay? Some schools may allow you to request the loan online. They may also send you a paper award notification, which will have the loan request form in there as well for you. So you just want to be aware. The question is, will the Stafford loan eligibility show up on the award letter? The answer would be yes. Okay? All right.